Hello, and welcome to Best of the Best 2020 Fiction for Older Readers. Each year, a team of CPL librarians evaluates the year's new books and selects the best books for Chicago's kids. Our full list of best fiction for children in grades 4 through 8 has 29 amazing titles. In this video, you'll hear us talk about a selection of our 10 favorites. Because we love them all equally, we'll be talking about these titles in alphabetical order. My name is Shiloh, and I'm from the Legler Regional Library. And today I'll be presenting with
Alexa from Children's Services and Family Engagement.
And I'm Josh from Children's Services and Family Engagement.
So let's get started. Our first title is The Canyon's Edge by Dusty Bowling. 1 year after her mother's horrific murder, Nora and her father decide to take a hike through a slot canyon in the Arizonan desert. What is meant to be a day of healing and celebration of Nora's birthday quickly turns into a nightmare when a flash flood sweeps through the canyon, taking all of their supplies and Nora's dad with it. Now Nora must try to survive with no provisions, no way out of the canyon, and at the same time, find her missing father. This novel in verse blends a tense, action-packed story with a heartbreaking drama about surviving both internal and external beasts. Pair this with Bowling's 24 Hours in Nowhere or Rodman Philbrick's Wildfire for more harrowing adventures.
Our next title is Doodleville by Chad Sell. Local author and illustrator Chad Sell has created an imaginary world that artists the world over have only dreamed about. Drew lives in Chicago, just like us. And just like so many kids, she has always loved to doodle and draw. But unlike us, her doodles have a life of their own. They live in Doodleville, a town sketched just for them on Drew's wall. But her doodles also have minds of their own. When Drew goes to the Art Institute with her art club, her doodles leap onto the walls and go dance with Degas' ballerinas, splash in Monet's lily pond, and have a drink at Hopper's bar. They might even bring home a souvenir. Drew is struggling. She wants her doodles to listen to her when she tells them to stay in the sketchbook. Her friends in art club have more sophisticated drawings and characters with sophisticated backstories. Plus, their drawings don't run around getting into trouble. It's Drew's drawings that are always getting out and making a mess. And when she tries to make it better, it gets worse and worse and worse until there is a monster on the loose attacking her friend's characters. What will Drew do? Can she draw something else to save the day? Or will she need a little bit of help? Readers who like Snapdragon by Kat Lay and the Making Friends series by Kristen Gudsnuck will love Doodleville. This is a great title for some of the kids on the younger end, your 4th and 5th graders. It also explores the links between art and emotion, so it's great for social emotional learning and interdisciplinary use. And it's just fun. Check out Chad Sell's website for some doodles you can download to use in book club.
Ernesto Cisneros, the author of Efren Divided, says that he was moved to write the book for his daughter. He says, so she could see that people of color, people of Mexican descent, are worth writing and reading about. He says, I wanted her to see her world depicted in a book. And, when that kind of book comes along that serves as a mirror for kids who can see themselves and their families in it, and it serves as a window for others, well, and it's also a great read, it makes for a real gem like this. Efren is, in most ways, a pretty typical 12-year-old. He thinks mostly about friends and school. He's got a pretty typical family, a mom and a dad, a younger brother and a sister. But his parents are not documented citizens. And then one day, his mother doesn't return home. And eventually, a friend's family finds out that she's been deported to Mexico. Now, this has, of course, a huge impact on all aspects of a friend's life. His dad has to get more work to support the family, which also means that a friend has to step up and really take on the care of his 2 younger siblings. And then his focus on school is severely disrupted. But this book is decidedly not the story of a victim, though. Efren actively works to figure out his family's situation, and he makes choices then to stand up for himself and his community. This book is sure to get kids thinking about, what other families may be experiencing. And it can be a great starting point, I think, for wider discussions about immigration policy. Also, check out Santiago's Road Home from this year by Alexandra Diaz and Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Now, Vivi Cohen, just like a lot of kids, can get hung up on what she is not. But I'm going to introduce you now to her with a bunch of things that she is. She is, first and foremost, a phenomenal pitcher. Vivi passionately loves baseball, and she reveres her personal hero, professional baseball pitcher VJ Capello, who one day actually showed her his knuckleball grip when her family got a chance to meet the players after the game. That was 3 years ago now, and Vivi has practiced her knuckleball pitch, the pitch that defies the laws of physics. She's practiced it every single day since. And that's another thing about Vivi Cohen. She is dedicated and she works super hard to reach her goals. When she says she's going to be a major league baseball player, you believe her. Vivi's also a younger sister, but her brother Nate, who used to play catch with her every day, has been acting weird and distant. And she's a daughter whose mom and dad love her very much, but they worry about her all the time. So when Vivi gets an opportunity to pitch for a little league team, she struggles to get the approval and support from her mom because here's the thing, she's the only girl on the team and the only kid with autism. And we get to read as Vivi kind of works through all this, and the author, Sarah Coppett, really shows us in the form of letters and emails between Vivi and her hero/mentor, VJ. So it's a great example of an epistolary novel for kids. And in terms of representation, it's awesome to have such a moving own voices story. Also check out another one from this year, A High Five for Glenn Burke by Phil Bildner, and Fish in a Tree by Linda Mullally Hunt.
King and the Dragonflies by Kaysen Callender. The dragonflies live down by the bayou, but there's no way to know which one's my brother. I want to ask Khalid. I want to ask him, why did you choose a dragonfly? Why not something cooler, like a lion or a panther or a wolf? And if he were still here in the body that's now buried in the ground over in Richardson Cemetery, he might hit me upside the head with his crooked grin and say, let me alone. I can choose to be whatever I want. And I wouldn't be able to argue because I know he'd be exactly right about that. King is struggling to follow in Khalid's footsteps, to understand that he can be whoever he is. He doesn't have to choose the same things Khalid wanted. King knows himself. He knows he likes boys, or at least he thinks he might, or he isn't sure about girls. Well, in any case, King knows that being gay is not acceptable in his family. Khalid didn't want him hanging out with Sandy, a white boy who likes boys, and who no one in town seems to approve of. King's father says that black boys can't like boys. It's wrong for anyone, and he says if a black person is ever gay, it's because they've been around white people too much. So what does that mean for King? It's been 3 months since Khalid's death. Things are finally getting back to normal in his house, a new normal. When his old friend Sandy disappears and King finds where he has run away to, King is suddenly faced with new and important choices. Will he help Sandy? How will he deal with his own feelings? And what are his feelings anyway? There are a lot of tough issues in this book, but they are handled with such tenderness and thoughtfulness, and King definitely has some allies. Recommend this to readers who enjoyed Callender's previous middle grade book, Hurricane Child, or The Stars Beneath Our Feet by David Barclay Moore. Maya and the Rising Dark by Rena Barron. How much do you know about your neighborhood? Maya's neighborhood on the south side of Chicago is full of characters, from the elderly Johnston twins and their evening strolls to her friends Eli and Frankie and their unique families. Her life is normal. Sure, her father is always off on business trips, and he tells impossible stories about them when he gets back, like the one about being trapped by alocos, dangerous forest folk with a taste for human flesh. But those are just stories, right? Until one day, Maya sees a weird crack in the ceiling at school, and time seems to stop. Or does it actually stop? Then Maya is grabbed by a cold, dark shadow on her walk home and rescued by the elderly Johnston twins, who are much stronger than they look. And were-hyenas make their appearance in her normal South Side neighborhood. Maya and Eli and Frankie barely escape. Maya's life is about to be turned upside down. It turns out that her father is a structural engineer, like he said, but not for structures in this world. He is the guardian of the veil between the worlds, and he's suddenly disappeared, leaving all the tears unguarded. What will Maya do with all this new information and all these new problems? Well, she'll need help from her friends to save her father and the day, of course. Maya and the Rising Dark is an action-packed story full of friendship, legends, and black girl magic. Literally. It's the first in a trilogy with a full educator's guide of resources available on the author's website. I recommend it for readers who like books by Rick Riordan, Paula Santiago and the River of Tears by Taylor K. Mejia, another great 2020 Best of the Best title, and The Serpent's Secret by Sayantani Dasgupta. The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert. Alberta loves to surf. She's been going to surfing camp for years so she can hang out with her surfing pals. Her small California hometown may have some issues, but having an awesome surfing beach is not one of them. Alberta is going into 7th grade, and she's the only black girl in her grade, which can be tough some days. Until a new girl moves in across the street. A black girl going into 7th grade. But Edie is different from Alberta. Alberta's got 2 dads. Edie's got 1 mom and 1 dad who are in the middle of getting divorced. Edie's also goth. She wears black all the time, which wasn't so weird when she lived in Brooklyn. Alberta and Edie, new best friends or just the only black girls in town? When Edie finds a box of mysterious journals in her new home, the girls find something to connect over. The author of these journals is a woman with something to hide. But what exactly? Alberta hopes they'll find out before they run out of journals to read. The journals aren't the only mystery here. How come Alberta's best friend Laramie is suddenly hanging out with Nicolette, a girl who bullies Alberta about surfing? Is it because Alberta has a new friend? 7th grade is so hard. Give this to kids who like For Black Girls Like Me by Mariama J. Lockington and Black Brother by Jewel Parker Rhodes.
Show Me a Sign by Anne Claire Lazotte. Every small village must think itself perfectly unique. I now know there was not another like ours in America in the year of our Lord, 1805. For those who take hearing and speaking for granted, our way of life may be hard to understand. You may be fooled into believing that Shillmark on Martha's Vineyard, an island south of Boston, is a fancy of my imagination, or the lost paradise. But I warn you, there are accounts of great wickedness along with hope in these pages. I hope you will be brave enough to enter. Mary Elizabeth Lambert, our 11-year-old heroine, is not only a wordsmith with a vivid imagination, she is also deaf. Though this is actually a very common trait among the members of her community, with about half of its members also being born deaf. Because of this, Mary doesn't realize how special her community is until a scientist comes to investigate what he sees as the island's affliction. When she discovers that his intentions are less than honest, Mary is kidnapped and taken to Boston, where she soon realizes just how special and isolated her community really is. There is also a subplot of the conflict between the islanders and the indigenous Wampanoag people that is a mirror of the conflict between the deaf and hearing community in Boston. This debut novel is an own voices story, as Lazotte herself is part of the deaf community. An extensive author note delves into the actual heredity of deafness on Martha's Vineyard and deaf education and sign language in America. This is perfect for fans of last year's Schneider Family Book Award honor and Best of the Best title, Song for a Whale by Lynn Kelly and Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. Next, we have Twins, the first graphic novel by award-winning author Varian Johnson with illustrations by Shannon Wright. Starting middle school is hard for everybody, but it's especially hard when your best friend, who also happens to be your identical twin, decides that she no longer wants to hang around you. That is exactly what happens to Mary and Carter. Maureen and Francine are starting the 6th grade, and up until now, they have done everything together. But this year, outgoing Francine chooses to change her name to Fran, change her look, and change her schedule to try something new. Now, quiet Maureen must navigate classes and lunch on her own. The twins are growing apart, and there is nothing Maureen can do to stop it. Or is there? When Fran announces she's running for student council president, Maureen takes the bold move of running against her twin. Now it's twin against twin in an all-out war of words at school and at home. May the best twin win, indeed. And who is that? Find out in Twins by Varian Johnson. For even more middle school drama, try Act by Kayla Miller and Invisible Emmy by Terry Libinson.
Imagine your mom suddenly makes you pick up and move in with your grandmother, your Harmony. And so your mom is driving you there, you and her and your older sister. You're almost at your grandma's house. It's terrible out. It's raining buckets. Then suddenly you look up at the road in front of the car and you see through the pouring rain a tiger. Right there in the road, a tiger, and a giant one looming ahead. No one else in the car sees it. Then it raises its head and looks right at you. That's how Tay Keller's When You Trap a Tiger starts. And the rest that follows is just as powerful, dreamlike, and riveting. Lily, our protagonist, is dealing with a lot of instability. Her mom and her sister are constantly fighting, and she quickly realizes that her grandmother grew up in Korea, and she's sick. But each night she begins encountering this mythological, very mysterious tiger, which may be able to help Harmony or maybe hurt her. When You Trap a Tiger revolves around stories, the folk stories that are passed down through generations, the family stories that change a little with each telling, the stories we tell ourselves, and the stories we use to make sense of our world. In a beautiful and lyrical mix of traditional narrative and myth, this book paints a sensitive and imaginative portrait of a girl coming to terms with loss and with identity. You can also check out Prairie Lotus by Linda Sue Park from this year, and Pashmina by Nidhi Chanani.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the rest of this great list of older fiction at shypublib.org/kidsbestofthebest. You can also find our other Best of the Best lists featuring picture books, informational books, and books in Spanish.